Hello everybody. I want to talk a little bit about how we can practice to keep our heels low and elastic in the stirrups when we're riding. And as many of you probably know, and have that same issue just as I have, our heels sometimes have a tendency to creep up a little bit, especially if we get a little bit sort of into our head more than into the feeling state of being on our horses, and we're getting a little anxious and we want the horse to go forward, and then the heels come up, and it's so hard to just focus on so many different things. I totally get that. But so what I like to do every once in a while to self-correct and help myself become more aware again of where my heels even are, and that there is a certain amount of pressure that needs to go into that part of our foot in order to keep it low. So I like to use these resistant bands. They're elastic type of resistance bands that people use for yoga and for Pilates, and I tied 2 of them into like a circular loop, and then I linked them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them through the stirrup, not the stirrup, the buck strap up here that most of you guys have, and if you don't, maybe get one, or otherwise you can just improvise and loop something from these rings that most dressage saddles have. And then so I'm going to put these through here on the top and let them dangle down on each side. And then once I get on, I will have my feet looped, the heel of the foot looped through each one of these resistant bands. So now I'm in the saddle, and I have my elastic resistant bands tied through the front here where the buck strap is, just over the top of the withers of the horse, and then they go on the sides of the front panels here, of the knee panels, and then they go underneath. I don't know if you can see that in Jamaica. They go underneath, and then I tie the heels back so that they're actually drawn by the elastic band inward. If I would tie it the other way, I would pull my legs out, which would defeat the purpose of us trying to quiet our legs down, of course. So the heel is now sort of in an elastic contact, and when I push down, if I close my eyes here for a moment, I can feel that there's a little bit of resistance, which makes my body, tune into that part of my body parts, and it's really, really very mild. You can make these things tighter if you like. I prefer them just sort of at a kind of regular, nice little tension so that I can feel them, but they don't, pull my heels up artificially. Of course, we don't want that either. And then I'm going to just go and say, okay, let's go and take this into motion. And you can do it, on the long rein at first, just to get a feel for it. And then what I like to do is I almost think of this always as if I put myself into a little bit of a self-lunging session when I try and address specific seat issues on myself, or with students, roll my shoulders back, think about where do I feel my stirrup? Is it placed nicely underneath the ball of my foot? And from there, can I let my heel sink down? And in this particular case, can I actually push down into that slight pressure that the elastic resistance band provides for me, right? So in the walk, it's left, right, and it's fairly easy because we have not so many different things going on at any given speed or at a particular quick tempo. But if I take this into the trot, just for a moment, a little bit of sitting trot, now I want to just think the rest of my seat is already kind of in place, right? So I'm going to just make it easy on myself, keep my hands kind of wide and low, and just think every time the trot takes me down into my saddle, in my seat, that's the same time when my heel should go down, right? So I'm going to go and think in my head, down, 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 down. And, as I think that, I push a little bit into that elastic lower heel feel. And I can definitely feel that it's having a little bit of an impact on the way I use myself, and I can see it and feel it in my horse's response. So I'm going to take this into a posting trot for a moment, and just so that it's the same principle, except that now that we're rising, usually the rising part is the part where the heel comes up, right? So you can make yourself aware of using 50% of your knee pressure and 50% of your lower leg pressure to keep your horse going. And again, because I focus in on my heel, this is a very mellow, not super spectacular trot, but I can feel definitely my heel, right? So then I'm going to take this into sitting trot, and for a moment we're going to go into canter. And now in the canter, of course, I'm thinking every time, again, the wave motion of the canter movement takes me downward. My heel needs to go down, 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 down. You know, and that is something so nice and simple. I feel the elastic band, I feel my heel. It's not a harsh thing, but I can feel it down, down, down. I could just spend a little time down, 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 just focusing on my heel, not thinking so much about the rest of everything that we usually have to think about, and allowing this just to become a little bit more of a feeling that we might visualize or imagine. I'm going to go back into the walk here when we're riding without these bands, right? So all of this to say that I don't recommend to ride with this type of contraption very often or very long, but just to give your mind-body connection a little bit of a sort of like a tune-in point, like an opening entry point is what I'm trying to say. An entry point from where you can say, okay, so where was that? Where was that feeling? And you visualize it, and you have it enough absorbed in your muscle memory after a while that it will stay with you. And then, you tackle the next part. It's a never-ending story. That's why we love riding. We can do it until we're old and almost dead. And I think that's all so lovely, and hope this is helpful for you guys. And happy riding. Thank you, Jamaica. Good girl.